Welcome to NFL Nexus, where we get into the nitty-gritty of the biggest stories around the league. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a huge decision facing the Indianapolis Colts, one that could seriously shape the future for them and their GM, Chris Ballard. This is a story about a ghost they just can't seem to shake, a search that's gone on for years, and a fascinating draft prospect who is both a dream and a massive, massive risk. You know, for what feels like an eternity in the NFL, there's been this shadow hanging over the Colts defense. It's a void left by a true franchise legend, a hole that, try as they might, they just haven't been able to fill. Every single year, whether it's the draft or free agency, the conversation always circles back to the same fundamental problem, and it leaves everyone asking the exact same question. And that question is, simply, who is going to be the next Robert Mathis? And look, this isn't just about finding a good player to put on the field. It's about trying to recapture that magic, the magic of a true game wrecker, a guy who could totally change a game all by himself with his pass rush. Ever since Mathis hung up his cleats, that consistent, terrifying pressure off the edge has been the one thing this Colts defense has been desperately missing. So let's be really clear about what we're talking about here. This is Indy's enduring edge problem. This isn't some new issue that just popped up. No, this has been a foundational weakness, a constant, frustrating search for a player who can be more than just a body, but a real, honest-to-goodness difference maker. The kind of player that offensive coordinators see on the schedule and just sigh. And it's not like the front office has just been sitting on their hands. They've definitely tried to solve it. They've turned through all sorts of rotational players, kind of hoping that a pass rush by committee thing would work out. They've brought in some big names, respected vets, but they were all just short-term fixes, not the long-term answer. But the real goal, the white whale for this franchise, has always been finding that one guy who can bring back that elite, game-destroying production of Robert Mathis. And that hunt is more intense now than ever. I mean, think about it. Their all-out and ultimately failed pursuit of Trey Hendrickson in free agency tells you everything you need to know. They were ready to open the checkbook wide to fix this problem, but they swung and missed. And that miss, it puts an enormous amount of pressure on this upcoming draft to finally find their guy. So that brings us to a potential solution. A prospect who has been on an absolute rocket ship up the draft boards, a player whose name is creating some serious buzz around the league, and he represents exactly the kind of high upside swing for the fences that the Colts might just have to take. All right, let's meet the man of the hour, Malachi Lawrence, the edge rusher out of UCF. Now, Lawrence wasn't just some flash in the pan. He was a consistent, disruptive force for the Knights for 3 straight years. But it's what he's done during this pre-draft process that has basically taken all the old scouting reports and just lit them on fire. His stock has gone through the stratosphere. From the Senior Bowl, where people were saying he was just unblockable, to his pro day, he has vaulted himself from being a pretty solid mid-round guy into one of the most talked about, most explosive defensive prospects in this entire draft class. And you better believe the NFL has noticed. We're not talking about a little bit of chatter here. The man scheduled 16 pre-draft visits with teams. 16! That is a massive number, and it just shows how much homework front offices are doing on this guy. And just look at some of the teams on that list. Of course, the Indianapolis Colts are there, but so are teams like the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. And that's where it gets really interesting. Because when teams like the Seahawks and 49ers, two organizations that are famous for finding and developing elite defensive linemen, are this interested, you know there's something special there. So what's causing all this commotion? Well, to put it simply, Lawrence's pre-draft tour has been absolutely dominant. He didn't just participate in the NFL Combine, he put on a show. He basically validated all the hype and then some with some truly eye-popping, jaw-dropping athletic testing numbers. Let's just start with this number, 9.95. That's his relative athletic score, or RAS, on a scale of 10. Now, if you're not familiar with RAS, it basically takes all of a player's measurements, their height, weight, speed, agility, all of it, and compares them to every other player at their position who has ever been tested. A score of 9.95 is, well, it's absurd. It puts him in the top 1% of the top 1% athletically. To give you some perspective, guys like Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons also had elite RAS scores. This isn't just good, this is the kind of generational athleticism that gets GMs and coaches drooling. Let's dig into that a little. A huge piece of that score was his insane 40-yard dash time. At 6'4", 253 pounds, he ran an official 4.52. For a man that big to move that fast is just, it's unreal.
That kind of speed translates directly to the football field. That's elite burst, the kind of get-off that gives offensive tackles nightmares and lets him close on a quarterback in the blink of an eye.
And it's not just about running in a straight line. His vertical jump was an incredible 40 inches. A number like that is a perfect indicator of lower body explosiveness, of raw power. It's that twitch, that ability to turn speed into power, that lets a guy bull rush a 320-pound tackle or get that extra pop to swat a pass down. And his testing showed he has that explosive power for days. So here's the kicker. When you wrap all those numbers up together, his RAS score isn't just elite for this class. It is the 13th highest among all defensive ends tested since 1987. Okay, just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about almost 4 decades of data, thousands upon thousands of players tested, and he is number 13. He is in the same athletic conversation as guys like Von Miller and TJ Watt. We are talking about truly rare, uncoachable athletic gifts. But, as we all know, being a great athlete is only half the battle. And that brings us right to the heart of the matter with Malachi Lawrence. It's the classic scouting dilemma, potential versus polish. When you turn on his college tape, you see 2 completely different players. One is this dominant, explosive pass-rushing force. The other is a clear work in progress. And it's that stark contrast that makes him one of the most fascinating and maybe one of the riskiest players in this entire draft. First off, let's be crystal clear. These athletic numbers were not just for show. This guy is not just a workout warrior. The production was absolutely there on the field at UCF. Over his last 3 seasons, he piled up 19.5 sacks and 27.5 tackles for loss. The man basically set up a tent in the opponent's backfield. And these weren't cheap sacks either. We're talking game-sealing sacks on 3rd down, strip sacks that created turnovers. He was a playmaker. And the fact that he got better every single year shows you he's on the right track. This isn't just theory, it's proven, consistent production. And this quote right here from NFL Draft Files really nails how he gets it done. Malachi Lawrence is my pick for deepest pass rush bag in the 2024 NFL Draft. Now that is a massive compliment. Having a deep pass rush bag means he's not just winning because he's a better athlete. It means he has a plan. He has an entire toolbox of moves. You watch the tape and you'll see him win with a lightning-fast cross-chop, a dirty inside spin that leaves tackles grabbing at nothing but air, and the power to convert that speed into a bull rush. He has technique. That tells you he's got a high football IQ, which is so crucial for making that jump to the next level. Okay, this slide right here, this perfectly lays out the whole debate about Lawrence. As a pass rusher, the guy is elite. He's got the speed, the burst, that deep bag of moves we just talked about. Pro Football Focus gave him a pass rush grade of 89.5, which is knocking on the door of elite territory, ranking him 33rd in the whole country. But when it comes to stopping the run, it is a totally different story. Scouts see him as a liability there. He can get washed out of plays by bigger tackles, and sometimes he gets so focused on getting to the quarterback that he loses contain on outside runs. And his PFF run defense grade of 66.2, ranking a measly 512th, that tells you everything. Right now, he is a pass rush specialist, and that is a really risky profile for a high draft pick. And all of this leads to the great puzzle facing the Colts front office, and specifically their GM, Chris Ballard. See, the decision on whether or not to draft Lawrence isn't just about one player. It's about philosophy, it's about timing, and it's about the incredible pressure to win right now. Ballard has a type, you know? He loves guys with elite athletic traits, great character, and a history of production. Lawrence checks the athleticism and production boxes in permanent marker. But Ballard also tends to like players he sees as safe, guys who are well-rounded. And Lawrence challenges that preference head-on, which could force Ballard to step outside his comfort zone. To really get the dilemma, you just have to look at the guys they have on the roster right now. Laiatu Latu is their number 1 guy. And yeah, 8.5 sacks looks okay on the stat sheet, but he had long stretches where he just disappeared. Behind him, you've got solid role players. Arden Key brings a ton of energy, but he can be a liability against the run himself. Mikael Clemens is more of a run stuffer. And then you have last year's rookie, Jalen Tumaloa, who barely saw the field. So what you have is a perfectly average group. And that's the problem. There's nobody there that offenses are truly scared of. And here is the other huge piece of this puzzle. There's a feeling around the league, and certainly in Indianapolis, that this is a make-or-break year for Chris Ballard. The pressure is on. They have their franchise quarterback on a cheap rookie contract, which is the absolute prime window to go for it in the NFL. Key guys are going to need new contracts soon, and the patience from the owner and the fans is starting to wear thin. All of that just elevates every single decision, especially a high draft pick, from just a simple roster move into something that could be a judgment on his entire time as GM. And that leads us to the ultimate question, the one they have to be wrestling with. In a year where so much is on the line, can the Colts really afford to use their most valuable draft pick on a guy who needs development? Can they afford to draft someone who might be a weakness against the run early on, even if his ceiling as a pass rusher is through the roof? That right there is the multi-million-dollar question being debated in that Colts war room. So let's just lay it all out. The case for drafting Lawrence is pretty simple, right? You're betting on the sky-high ceiling, a ceiling that is built on those rare athletic traits you just can't teach. He addresses a problem that has been killing this team for a decade. If they somehow got him with their second-round pick, it would feel like a home run. But the case against him is just as compelling. He's a project. He's not a guy who's going to come in and be a three-down player from day one. And in a win-now year, can you really afford to spend a premium pick on a guy who might only play on passing downs? That pick could be a starting cornerback or another weapon for your young quarterback, positions that could help you win games immediately. It's a huge, huge gamble. And really, that's what it all boils down to. It's the classic draft day debate, potential versus polish. Will Chris Ballard and the Colts finally take that big swing, gambling on the rare elite traits, hoping they found their next Robert Mathis? Or will the pressure of this make-or-break season force them to play it safe, to take a more complete player who can help them on all three downs from the jump? It is a fascinating choice, and there is no easy answer. So now I want to know what you think. If you were Chris Ballard, what would you do? Do you swing for the fences on Lawrence and his incredible upside, or is the risk just too high for a team that needs to win today? Let me know your take down in the comments below. I really want to hear what you guys think. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, do us a huge favor and smash that like button. It really, really helps the channel out. And if you want more breakdowns just like this one, make sure you hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss what we're cooking up. Oh, and one last thing. If you want a great way to help support the channel, check out our coloring books. They are perfect for kids, grandkids, and hey, even for adults too. You can find them using the link down in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Thanks so much for watching NFL Access. We'll catch you on the next one.